Serbs. Now, one issue that keeps coming up all the time, and I started, in fact, with the Ukraine right at the start, is further enlargement. Is this lady having a question? She's talking all the time. Which is distracting. Is she asking questions or is she commenting? Enlargement. We know that Croatia has completed the process of accession pretty much on time. The process was delayed a little bit for a while the conflict on territorial delimitation with Slovenia was simmering. That has now been solved too, inasmuch as Slovenia and Croatia agreed to go to arbitration. An arbitration panel has already been appointed, and they're looking into this right now. In that connection, you may remember that one issue was also holding up process with other Balkan states, and still does, regarding Serbia, and that is the delivery of suspected or alleged war criminals to the tribunal in The Hague. Croatia had its own problem in this respect, which was solved, and as soon as it was solved, negotiations with Croatia continued and were successfully completed. The status of the Ukraine, of course, you know more about it. The problem is not on the European side. The problem is, I suppose, if you want to become a member at the Ukrainian side, and the decision-making from both sides. Okay, I'm told from both sides. One gets the impression, though, that the Ukraine doesn't really know which way to look, to go, and to find friends east, west, or on one's own, it seems. And Turkey, well, what about Turkey? What about Turkey? Anyone from Turkey here? Why not? Let's look at Croatia first. The referendum was held very recently in January, and the acceptance was 67% of the people of Croatia in favor of accession. So that's a very strong mandate to complete the process, and it is expected that accession would in fact occur on 1st July next year. That is the issue I had mentioned before, the Piran Bay. It's a tiny little stretch of sea in the Mediterranean, which has been in dispute as to the delimitation of the borders between them, and there is now an arbitration process. Serbia. Now, Serbia is a problematic case for a number of reasons. Maybe it's more accurate to say the Serbs don't know which way to go. Serbia knows that they cannot possibly hope to become even or even seriously negotiate with Kosovo if the Kosovo is so unresolved. There are some political forces in Serbia who, of course, nationalistic as they are, will say, never without Kosovo. It's pretty clear that cannot happen. So again, the political process of opinion shaping and development has to occur for them to be ready to enter the European Union and not taking Kosovo with it because they cannot. There is, by the way, a split amongst member states in the European Union. Some member states, such as Spain or I think Slovakia, have not recognized a sovereign Kosovo, so there's no uniform outlook even there, but it's clear that Serbia cannot hope to repossess Kosovo as part of its sovereign territory. I don't know whether the name of Goran Hadžić means anything to you at all. He was one of those suspected war criminals that had been arrested only July last year. And only after its arrest did the European Commission officially accord the status to Serbia of a candidate state, which means a state with which negotiations might in due course start. But the unresolved issue indeed is the Kosovo issue. Now, as to Macedonia and Montenegro, they are also candidates, like Serbia is. Albania has submitted an application, and Bosnia, Kosovo have not yet made a formal application because they know it would fail in the current situation. One type of negotiations I have not mentioned because I only look at this southern European region for now, and that is, of course, Iceland. You know, Iceland has submitted an application for membership, and very little is heard about the progress. In substance, there shouldn't be much of a problem, but what do you remember is the problem?
Regarding depositors.
The financial expert here knows they have a lot of debts to Dutch and United Kingdom banks, and I think the parliament in Iceland has decided they should not be repaid for now.
I agree with that.
Okay. But of course the consequence might be that the negotiations are more difficult or may not be successful in the short run. The Ukraine. Now, here I only put 3 lines there because you know much more about this than I do. Some of the gentlemen just left are even negotiating. The Ukraine was always much loved by the European Union in many senses of the word, and it was extended to become part of the so-called neighborhood policy. I must say, I never quite